Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Have you ever felt like every touch leads to sex, and it has become ever increasing that any time that your husband touches you, it just feels like you're going to go have sex and you just don't feel ready for that? And it then just becomes this blow up situation. Or maybe even you find yourself shying away from your husband's touch, having discomfort with touch from your husband. If any of these describe you, I am so excited to tell you about one of my favorite techniques to talk with my one-on-one clients about, and it's called touch time. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the sex and intimacy podcast for Catholic women. My name is Ellen Holloway. I am a Catholic speaker and coach who specializes in sex and marital intimacy, and I am on a mission to help you actually enjoy and desire good, holy sex with your spouse. So today we're going to be talking about ways that we can actually mitigate that kind of cringing, shying away feeling that we have with our husbands. And this can come from any number of reasons. But when we shy away from touch because it feels like it's going to lead to sex, then we have less touch. And then it kind of becomes this like ever deepening cycle that touch kind of does end up leading to sex because your husband is not receiving any non-sexual touch from you or barely any. And sort of it's very common to feel like, oh, she finally let me give her a long hug or a long kiss. That must mean that she's feeling okay to have sex. And this one, the number one way to mitigate this is communication. We got to talk, you guys. We have to talk about what's going on, how we're feeling about sex, how we like initiating, how we don't like being initiated to. We have to talk about these things. But this episode, I want to introduce you to something called touch time. So one of the best ways to eliminate this difficulty that we have with touch is to add more touch in. So first off, I always recommend just consciously touch your husband more, non-sexually. Give him a hug when you see him. Like if you pass, he's maybe sitting down and you pass by him, like just touch his shoulder. Sit close enough on the couch to where your legs are touching, or put an arm around his shoulder, hold his hands, like just completely non-sexual touch. Add more of that in. But let's talk about touch time. Touch time is done in at least 8 minutes, ideally 20 minutes. But we don't always have 20 minutes. So 8 minutes is kind of the minimum here for touch time. What you're going to do is you and your husband are going to sit across from each other and set a timer. So we'll go on the 20-minute. This is the ideal. But if you're doing 8 minutes, it would be shorter. So if you're doing 20 minutes, you're going to set a timer for 5 minutes. If you're doing 8 minutes, you're going to set a timer for 2 minutes. So you can set a timer for 5 minutes. And you are going to touch your husband in any way that you want to. This could be giving him a massage, touching his legs or knees, playing with his fingers, playing with his hair, whatever kind of touch you want. It does not need to be sexual in any way. And in fact, it probably shouldn't be all that sexual. Because one of the most important things about touch time is that touch time does not lead to sex. Touch time cannot lead to sex. Because the whole point of what we're doing with touch time is we're getting you and your husband used to each other's touch outside of the sexual context. So touch time cannot lead to sex. This is a great thing to do if you're avoiding pregnancy during the fertile window. If you're like, sex is completely off the table right now, this is a great exercise to do at that time. And again, it doesn't need to be, nor really, honestly, should it be all that sexual of touch that you're doing. Your clothes are on. You are just touching your husband in some way that you choose to. Timer goes off. Now you set another timer for the same amount of time. If we're doing 5 minutes, you set another timer. Now your husband is going to touch you in any way that he chooses to. So maybe he chooses to rub your legs or play with your fingers, give you a massage, rub your arms, play with your hair, whatever. Timer goes off. Now it switches back to you. You're going to touch your husband, but now your husband gets to decide what you're going to do. So your husband can say, I would like a foot rub. I would like a back rub. I'd like you to play with my hair. I'd like you to, rub my knees and thighs. Whatever it is. You do that for 5 minutes until the timer goes off. And then we have one last timer. And this is your husband is going to touch you in some way that you choose. So maybe you want a massage on your back or on your leg or a foot massage, or you want him to play with your hair or whatever. You call the shots. He touches you in whatever way you want to be touched. Again, after that final timer goes off, you cannot have sex because that's going to defeat the purpose of this activity, which is acclimating the two of you to each other's touch. And allowing touch to just be something that is neutral to good. We'll be back with the episode in just a minute. Let me ask you a quick question. Does sex just kind of suck? Or maybe you and your husband are just always arguing about sex? Maybe you feel like your libido has disappeared, or it takes you too long to get aroused, or you just really don't like sex that much and you're ready for that to not be an issue in your life anymore? If that sounds like you, then you need the Catholic Sex Course for Women. In this course, we dive into the 5 pillars of married sex, and I help you actually finally have the sex life that you have dreamed of. Sex is so good. It is so holy, and you deserve to actually enjoy and find pleasure in your sex life. Check out the Catholic Sex Course for Women at vinesandfullbloom.com/Catholic sex, or click the link in the show notes. If the way that your husband chooses to touch you during touch time is ticklish, you need to say something. And here's why. Is the tickle reaction is actually, it's a safety measure that our body does. Think about the areas that are the most ticklish. They're very sensitive areas. A lot of times, your inner groin, inner legs, and right around your midsection is some of the most ticklish areas. Your body is protecting you from being used. The reaction to being tickled is like clenching up and moving your body away quickly. You have very little control over the way that your body is reacting. A lot of times when you're tickled, you're going to kind of, your body will naturally get into a cannonball position, a really protected position. Your body's protecting you from being used in a way that you do not want to be used, right? So if the way that your husband is touching you is feeling ticklish, he's going to need to move to a different part of your body that's not ticklish until you can acclimate your own body to his touch. Because if you're feeling ticklish, that's just going to like reinforce it in your mind that something feels unsafe on a very subconscious level. But that's going to like create this negative cycle. So yes, he gets to choose how he wants to touch you during the beginning section of touch time. But if he tickles you, that needs to be like, okay, hey, sorry, not right there, not right now, right? A lot of times what will happen is as we kind of get warmed up to the touch is that tickle feeling will go away. So either after a minute or two of doing touch time, maybe he is able to move to that spot that was ticklish. Like maybe your leg was ticklish, like he was rubbing your thigh or something and that felt very ticklish. Say he moved to your hands and arms for a little bit and your body kind of got acclimated and used to the touch. Now he might be able to move back to your leg. But he also might not. And that's something just to kind of keep in mind and communicate. It also might be the situation that like later into doing touch time, like maybe you choose to do touch time once a week, every single week, or twice a week or something like that. And after you do it for 3 or 4 times, then those more sensitive places that were feeling ticklish at the beginning are feeling less ticklish now or not at all. And that's a really good indication that you are moving toward that acclimation of the touch. Touch time is absolutely can really change things. And I know it might sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but it cannot lead to sex. The reason is, again, we are trying to build in a feeling of safety with your husband's touch. If right now you're kind of cringing away from any kind of touch from your husband because it feels like it leads to sex, if we build in touch time and then touch time leads to sex, that's only going to reinforce the idea that touch leads to sex in your brain. And we want to disassociate that. We want to throw that out and recognize that your husband's touch is good, it's healthy, it's safe, and it's enjoyable, right? Like touch time should be something fun and enjoyable to do. You guys can talk during it. It's something you could do while watching a movie too. Like you can just set a timer while you're watching a TV show and switch back and forth on touching. It's something you can just throw on some music and talk about your day while you do touch time. Lots of different things that you can do. I don't recommend it just be silent. Like have a conversation or watch a movie or something like that. But just build in a acclimation to good, healthy touch with each other.
Thanks so much for listening. If you are not already following us on Instagram, be sure to check us out at Charting Toward Intimacy. And if you listen to podcasts on a platform that gives you the option to rate or review, we'd love for you to do that because it helps us spread the word about the podcast. If you ever have questions, comments, or episode topic ideas, please reach out to us. We love to hear from you. You can reach out on Instagram or send us an email. Our email is in the show notes. Until next time.